And we're coming to you live for the Built Forward Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are on the free Odyssey app. Good Friday morning, a feel-good football Friday ahead of championship weekend in the NFL. And we've got all the helmets in front of us on CBS Sports Network. I got the AFC helmets, the Chiefs and the Bills in front of me. Boomer's got the Eagles and the Commanders in the NFC in front of him. It is just a great day, that championship Sunday. It's even better when your team is in it. And when your team hasn't been in it or hasn't been to a Super Bowl in a very long time, it's even more special for the Bills and the Commanders. So we'll see what Super Bowl we get. I think we know what America would prefer to see, but I don't know if we're going to get that Super Bowl. Some more moving and shaking in the NFL with coaches as the Jacksonville Jaguars got their guy after a crazy day with Liam Cohen back and forth to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're still waiting to see who the next Jet GM is. It's a full-blown football Friday, a feel-good Friday. Boomer Esiason, good morning. How are you?
It's a glorious Friday there, G, as my Rangers took down the Flyers last night, and I swear to God, there is nothing more satisfying than that. I'm sorry. I know we're all talking about championship football Sunday, but give me just 2 minutes. It was a glorious beatdown of the Flyers. I still respect John Tortorella a lot, but beating that team last night the way the Rangers did makes me very, very happy this morning. And the Rangers have gotten their act back together, and they're getting themselves back in the mix. So we could have a little nice spring here if the Rangers continue to play the way that they're playing. Yeah, that's right. So now saying that, this whole Liam Cohen thing down in Jacksonville is fascinating. And I was just telling Gio before we got on the air, these teams that have all hired new coaches, including the Jets with Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel up there, Ben Johnson in Chicago, now Liam Cohen down in Jacksonville. Everybody is just like totally jacked up in their respective cities about the people that they have selected.
Well, it happens every time.
Yeah, I know it does feel like that. And what I hope, here what I specifically hope for the New York Jets and Aaron Glenn, that they let him hire his staff.
Yeah, because we've seen that before. The Jets actually did that, with Adam Gase. Not that Adam Gase was going to be a great coach anyway, but they foisted Greg Williams upon him, and that putting those two wackos in the same situation, that was Shiv City, man.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that I get this feeling that this whole thing is like it's a Tannenbaum Parcells thing happening all over again.
Okay.
And all these guys, and this is great because there is a modicum, not a modicum, there's a lot of success for guys like, obviously, Bill Parcells, Sean Payton, and Dan Campbell, all the guys that Aaron has worked for. And I think that's terrific. But I also feel like, is the 33rd team doing something else? Not only just helping hire the head coach or maybe even getting a GM, but are they putting a staff together for Aaron? Or is Aaron going to be putting that staff
Well, he's got to be putting the staff together. I understand.
I hope so.
Well, they did it ass backwards with the GM and the head coach. I mean, I always thought that if you were going to hire the coach first, it has to be a guy who has commanded that respect, and Aaron Glenn has not done that as a head coach yet, but they decided to go that route. Okay, fine, let's pair him with a guy that you really like as a general manager that can get along with Aaron Glenn. But if you're telling me you're bringing in Aaron Glenn and Woody Johnson or whoever else is going to hire his staff, then that to me is just getting this thing off on a wrong foot. That can't possibly.
See, but this is why a experienced head coach will come in and say to the owner, "This is what I'm doing. This is my staff. This is who I want." I don't know. I'm sure Aaron has got relationships. I'm sure he's got guys that he wants on his staff, and hopefully they'll allow him to put his staff together.
What makes you say that? Why do you think?
I don't know, some of the names you see, you start thinking to yourself, okay, well, that's the Parcells tree. That's Mike Tannenbaum knows that guy. This one.
But Aaron Glenn is a Parcells tree guy, so it's sort of.
It is. Again, it's not an easy thing to do to put a staff together. It's just not. I mean, especially when you're supposedly starting from scratch. I don't know if they'll keep anybody off the previous staff or not. The guys seem to be moving around pretty good right now. But
I'd keep Nathaniel Hackett around. That's what I would do.
Yeah, okay.
I'd make sure we'd give him a job. Yeah. I mean, that guy, can't let him leave the building.
But let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Instead of going through a whole nother offense, and I'm sure they're going to, whoever it may be. I mean, I'm not saying you keep Nathaniel Hackett, but do you keep like a Todd Downing, if you're bringing back Aaron Rodgers. I mean, are you going to try to teach a 41-year-old, a whole new bag of tricks and offense with new vernacular and new rules and all this, all the things that go into building an offense? That's interesting to me. If you want Aaron Rodgers back, I mean, you're not going to teach him new things, but then again, you also don't want him having total control of the offense by himself. No matter how good he is or how smart he is, he's got to have somebody holding him accountable.
Keyshawn Johnson, do you see what he said about Aaron Glenn bringing back Aaron Rodgers?
I did not see that.
So Keyshawn Johnson said on Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers, he, meaning Aaron Glenn, will not start off his career with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback in September. If he does, then I'm walking from Calabasas at 4 a.m. in the morning to the studio with nothing on but boxers. So I'm saying this with a lot of confidence. And it's a 10-hour walk from Calabasas to their studio. And by the way,
Keyshawn and Aaron were teammates together. So for the Jets when Keyshawn first got drafted. So, I'm sure he's very friendly with Aaron. But the only thing that I would say is that you got Lomas Brown, in Detroit, who has covered the Detroit Lions, and a former Lion himself who says that he wouldn't be surprised if they kept Aaron Rodgers. I kind of tend to agree with Keyshawn in this regard, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is not an easy decision because you could very easily make a case on both sides. We're saying you want to the other options at quarterback other than Aaron Rodgers for a first-time head coach are not good, and you would like to get off on a start where you're winning. But also the other side of this, which I think is more important, which I lean to, is we have talked so much about this next head coach being the guy that changes everything in that building, being the man and everything else. Can Aaron Glenn start his career with someone as big of a personality as Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback? Can he establish that? Because those first impressions, that first year is so important to gain and respect everybody.
That first year that Coach Parcells took over, I think he still had Neil O'Donnell, and he also had Ray Lucas. And if I remember, Ray Lucas ended that season in 1997.
He played well, right?
Or it was 97.
Because the second year, 98, they went to the championship game.
But they also had Vinny then.
Yep.
So eventually they're going to have to get somebody,
Sure.
And if Parcells is talking to Aaron Glenn quite a bit, and he is giving him advice and trying to tell him things that he did, because again, like when you and I were talking about this, when they did fire Rob Saleh, who they were going to bring in, we talked about they needed a Parcells type to do exactly what Parcells did when he got here. Mm-hmm. And, he brought in a wealth of credibility, Super Bowl hardware, playoff hardware. He had been successful in New England. He had been successful with the Giants. That Aaron doesn't have that part of it. But he does have, it seems like, the personality part of it. And if he does have the personality part of it, then I would lean more toward what Keyshawn Johnson is saying.
That Aaron Rodgers will not be here in September to be the starting quarterback.
I don't know how he can be. I mean, like, if you're a rookie head coach, having that dynamic personality in your building is probably not the way that you want to get off and the way that you want to control the football team. Here's the other thing I would say, for any of these coaches. Liam Cohen, same thing. Same thing for David Canales down in Carolina when he took over that job. I would say the same thing for for Ben Johnson up in Chicago. It's one thing to be understanding, and being a listener to the players and, have a connection with the players. That is really important. But the more important part of that is you have to be demanding of the players. And that's what Bill Parcells was when he took over the Jets. He was demanding. He brought a level of professionalism and discipline to that locker room. Now, he brought in a couple guys that knew him, and he always did that. He always brought in a few of his guys that would clean up the locker room, that would, know how the locker room's supposed to be, what he would say to his guys, look, you know exactly what I'm expecting. This is what I want in the meeting rooms. This is what I want in the locker room. This is what I want out on the practice field. So I'm hoping that Aaron has that part of him where, he can be understanding and it's all about respecting the players, but it's also the players respecting him and him demanding from them a total competitive edge, which is what has been missing with the Jets.
So I was reading Rich Cimini yesterday about the GM search and saying how they were focusing on these other two guys and how our buddy from Detroit there, Lance Newmark, who went from Detroit to the Commanders, who was the first to get a second interview. Everybody thought it was going to be Aaron Glenn and Newmark, how he seems to have been pushed to the side here. And Rich Cimini said, well, what happened to Lance Newmark, asking the question? And then he answered, he put out a suggestion of what the answer would be. It was, maybe there's another organization with a GM opening that was more enticing to him. And I'm thinking, no way. That's not what it was. I know what it was. I know the answer. Why they decided to, at least for now, it looks like they're not focusing on Lance Newmark and focusing on these other guys. It was you reading the Fliegelman tweet. That's what it was. Someone in the Jets organization heard you read the Lance Newmark Fliegelman tweet where he said this guy, for the better part of 22 years, was part of the worst organization in the world, and now you're going to hire him just because he's friends with a guy who played for the Jets 30 years ago, and he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. That got Brick Johnson, and Brick Johnson told Pops.
Yeah, okay.
And Pops said, "Let's get him out of here."
If I had a guess, and the way this thing is going, and the people that are being circulated around the organization right now, I would think it'd be this guy Mooj from Denver. Mooj, because and the reason I say that is because he's the Sean Payton right-hand guy. Yeah. And as long as he knows what the league is all about, and I think he does, and he was a former player, and he worked his way up through a number of different coaches out there in Denver, as John Elway was the guy that gave him his start in Denver, it just makes too much sense that he may, depending on how he interviewed yesterday, I'm not sure, that he would be the guy. If he is the guy, then it's Parcells 2.0 starting all over again with Aaron Glenn as the head coach.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be this Trey Brown from the Bengals. He was with the Patriots. He was with the Eagles. Aaron Glenn knows him. They know each other. They met a few years ago. He does not know Darren Muji. He does know Trey Brown. And also in the Cimini article, a league source referred to Trey Brown as a rising star.
They both are, actually.
So, yeah. But
they both are rising stars as opposed to Newmark, who's been around.
Well, these guys have been around. They're just younger. So Newmark's 42. These other guys are 39. So, and they've each been in, had multiple roles. Muji's been in one organization.
Newmark's 42, but he was with the Lions for 26 years.
That's what it
says. Does that make sense? I guess so, right?
Well, hold on. Let me see.
Maybe he started there when he was, 18?
Maybe I got his age wrong. I might have had his age wrong.
I think he's in his 50s.
Yeah, you know what? He didn't have a Wikipedia page, so that's why I don't even see a freaking age on him. Maybe, yeah, I probably got that wrong then. If he can't.
But I think the other guys are younger. I think Muji and
those guys I know are 39.
Yeah,
I don't have an age on this guy, but he's got to be older than that. No age.
But I'm trying to think where. So he was with the Patriots, so it's kind of Belichickian, Parcellsian, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's been in the nondescript Bengals front office.
Trey Brown, yep.
Yeah, and I'm assuming probably. I'm sure he likes it there. I'm sure he loves Duke Tobin, but it's a different way of doing things. They have a very unique way of doing things, kind of like the Steelers, kind of like the Bears, family-owned. Family has a lot to say about the decision-making.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get away from Lance Newmark. I don't like anything, but you can't find this guy's age anywhere. The Wikipedia pages have his age.
I mean, so the Commanders don't have anything on their website about him?
They do, but they don't have how old he is.
He had a big hand in selecting Jaden Daniels.
Of course he did, yeah.
Yeah.
He was the only guy who liked Jaden Daniels out of the draft. He had to work hard to convince the rest of the world that Jaden Daniels had talent. Yeah,
all you had to do is watch Brian Dable on Hard Knocks.
Yeah, true.
Then you'd find out about just how everybody felt about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, I have his whole thing here, but no age.
And by the way, the press conference for Aaron Glenn is Monday.
Okay, very good. Yeah, 28 years of NFL experience. He couldn't be 42. He's got to be older than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be older than that.
He's got to be in his 50s.
Yeah. All right, so I had that wrong. But those other guys are 39. I know that for a fact. I saw that yesterday when I was looking them up.
It sounds like maybe he's like a CIA guy or something.
Newmark?
Yeah, he's got no information out there.
Yeah, I know. It's a little weird. Or he's just not that important. Could be that. It's one of the two. He's either too important or not important enough. But he's certainly not just regular important.
So I know they interviewed Phil Savage again, although that has not been reported out there. I don't know why.
Well,
And
because he's been there, I guess, right?
I guess so. I guess it's not a thing. And really, quite frankly, these young guys that are coming in, do they know the lay of the land? I would think they would especially if you're in these front offices, Denver and the Bengals, they have had a lot of success, especially since Sean Payton's gotten there and since Joe Burrow was drafted. And I think that those teams have had a modicum of success. That, again, another reason why you would interview these guys. But the guy Muji is a guy that is Sean Payton's eyes and ears on the ground in Denver. So that leads me to believe that if they're going to try to bringing the old band back together, but the second generation of it, that he would be the perfect fit, assuming he interviews well.
In the head coach and the general manager and knowing the area and dealing with the area and the history of the Jets organization, I think it's more important for the head coach to understand that than the GM. I feel like the GM can isolate themselves a little bit and just focus on the players and all of those things. They don't have to talk to the media as much. So like someone who doesn't have any ties to New York, it's a little bit more acceptable to have them be the general manager than the head coach. So I'm not going to slam any one of these guys for not knowing anything about the Jets, whereas, we wanted to see, there goes the football, my bad. We wanted to see someone who knew the history of the Jets at the very least, and Aaron Glenn does have that. Doesn't have the experience I wanted, but at least knows what he's up against.
Yeah, and plus he has the history. He has, all that stuff in his background that you want, and it sounds like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Again, understanding to the players, respect the players, great, but demand from the players. That's Peyton, that's Campbell, and that's Parcells.
Serve the locker room. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Got to serve that locker room. Coddle guys. That's what works today. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.